All right. Thank you for being here. Jacquelynn Wolfheart, psychologist, filmmaker, writer, more. How does being a psychologist affect your writing?
Oh yeah, I think they actually tie in pretty well. I spend my day helping people analyze their personalities, and then you go home and you write people's personalities. So they kind of tie in, they go hand in hand almost. I'm actually surprised that more people don't start with being a psychologist and then going into being a writer. Or it's actually authors, I bet they do that a lot, but I don't see that often with script writers. And I feel like that should be like part of the process. It seems so natural to me, or at least from my point of view, it seems so natural.
Can you pick that out if you're reading something and go, this is somebody that's trained in Maslow's higher needs or some psychology thing?
I haven't really read too many scripts before they're made into a movie, but when I'm watching shows, definitely. You can definitely tell when people are when they know what they're talking. I mean, but almost any profession can do that, right? They can watch a show and know like, "Oh yeah, that's so made up," or "That's totally real." So of course I do that too. But I think when you're a psychologist, it's not just about like diagnosis, it's literally about people's everyday behavior. So or about it's so much more than what people realize. So it's not just about um like I said, it's not just about a diagnosis, but it's literally about like how people are actually living their life. So you kind of see a little bit more into somebody could just be making a sandwich in a scene, and a psychologist might be analyzing that a little bit more than the average person, um, and and picking it apart a bit more. So I'm noticing I notice things a lot more, and it does like it either drives me crazy or I like applaud things. And my husband, it drives him crazy because I'm like 6 episodes ahead of him in my brain. I'm already telling him like, "Oh, this is where they're going with it." And then he's like, "No way, that doesn't even make sense." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, it doesn't." And then he's like or my dad, I'm not really close with my dad, but we've been watching Severance. I don't know if you watched Severance on Apple. Highly recommend it. Kinda starts out slow, but it is once you get, like, around episode 3 in season 1, you're like, "I have to know what the heck is going on." So we're in season 2. Season 1, I already told my dad how this is going how this is going, and, just a few days ago, my dad caught up not with this past Friday's episode, but the week before's Friday episode, and he was like, "Oh my god, you were right, and I did not see that coming." And I'm like, "I told you 4 episodes, that's what they were gonna do." And my dad was like, how did you know that?" And I'm like, "I don't Dad, I don't even know how to explain how my brain works, but I could just tell you that's where they're going with it." And that show really is heavy with mental, and you wouldn't think it. It's a sci-fi-ish kinda movie, but I'm like, "It's very mental." It is very mental, like, how they're going with it. So, of course, I know where they're going. Of course, I know where they're going with it.
It's depressing then when you think, like, you pause it and say, okay, here's what's happening. Here's what's going to happen. Here's the twist. It's depressing when it doesn't work out like that and it's not as good. And you go, oh man, this, who's writing this? And then you have to think,
Yeah,
why did they make these decisions? But
yeah. I think there's in the last maybe decade or so, there's only one show I've watched that I have not figured it out within, like, the first 10 minutes, and that was I think it's called Clickbait. I'm not sure if that's the name. It was a Netflix movie, or it was like
okay.
not a movie, it was a series, but it was just a limited series, so just 1 season, but it was the whole story was done in 1 season. That was the only one that I have not they did so good with it, so many twists and turns, interesting the whole time. No really well-known actors were in it, but it was still made you wanna stick around, you're in it for the show, the story. That's, like, one of the very few shows that I watched, um, that I was, like, every episode, like, "I have no idea where this is going." Um, but yeah, most of them. I can't say I'm disappointed in shows a lot, but most of the time I'm like, "Good job me for
Oh,
being
yeah.
able to analyze a lot." Um, it makes me feel like I know my job very well when I can pick apart characters to see where they're going. It kind of makes me feel like I must know my job pretty well if I can figure out characters that well, I guess. I guess. I'm not trying to sound bragatory. That sounds so conceited. I'm
Mm.
just a person. I'm just a person.
I'm just a person that has better ideas than the people that
No,
publish these
no,
things.
no, no.
No, I understand.
I mostly work with little kids too, so it's not even it just makes me feel like I must really know people even more than I realize I know people if I can just spend 5 minutes with them and kind of figure out a lot from that 5 minutes, you know? It makes me feel a little good about it, I guess.
I have a much better ending for Game of Thrones, not the books, but for the HBO one where
Yeah.
Arya, I think that was her name, the youngest
Mhm.
Stark lady that had that was with the mini face man, that it should have been where it turned out at the end she killed Bran and then put his face on, so she's in the wheelchair, and then the White Walker comes up to him at the end, or whatever that main villain was, and she kills him. And then it could turn out that Bran was the White Walker King. I'm okay with that, but that she had to kill Bran in order to kill the White Walker, who was
Yeah,
Bran.
yeah. Yeah.
That would have been better. I feel like whoever the guy that wrote that stuff, I can't remember his name now, that he was disappointed by how HBO did it. And I think it's too late to go back. It's kind of like the Star Wars stuff, where if you could go back and say, all right, these movies never happened. We're starting from here. We're starting from Rogue One, and now go. And let's see
Yeah.
what this can turn out to be. If we're not worried about it being a kid's movie per se, but maybe it's good that they're kids movies. I don't know. If
Yeah.
you look at it
Well,
like that, it doesn't get as violent as
I think
it
also
could
though
be.
too when it comes to that we've written a book first and now it's a franchise into a film or a show, a series, is that they're trying to do 2 things. They're trying to give people what they want while also trying to give people something they're not expecting. So it's like this crossroads of how do you accommodate both those things? And sometimes it goes really well and sometimes it goes really badly. I think like Dexter is maybe a good example of that. Like the very
Mm.
first round of Dexter, they you know,
I'm in
how
the
many
last season of that right now.
they
So I
oh,
got like 4 episodes left.
the first series. Oh, I better
Season
not
8.
ruin that.
No, that's all
So they
right. Go
went,
ahead. I have my own ideas.
they went many seasons of that, but then they were able to come back years later and do more with it. So they're coming back and giving fans, you know, a
They're doing
redo.
the prequel, right?
Yeah, right now they're in the prequel. So
Yeah.
they're tapping into that like the crossroads of giving people what they want, giving people something new. And that's a really good example of it. But like not everybody gets that opportunity, that chance to do it that way. And I think they're kind of doing it. They're doing a pretty good job, I think, of that.
Mhm.
If I
I
do say so
resisted
myself.
looking at that for a long time just because I didn't want to buy into the whole serial killer thing. But the having looked at it now and being in season 8, which is the last season before the prequel, and I think it was season 8, episode 7, where Hannah returned, and what the show ends. Here's the spoiler thing, so everybody shouldn't listen if they don't know. When she returns, and it's turned out she poisoned them, that's where it should have ended. And then they could have picked it up years later if they wanted to, or it could have been they're just dead now. That would have been great. It's like, yes, that's that's good. So now they go on
So
with this other stuff, but it's okay.
yeah, I don't want to spoil stuff for you, but there's so much more. You just wait.
Okay. All
You
right.
just wait.
All right. We'll
But yeah,
see.
they did. I think yeah, the whole serial killer thing is they tried. They did something different though. They turned like a bad guy into a good guy, which is a unique twist. But it was weird. What was it? Season 4 maybe had or 3 or 4 had John Lithgow as the bad guy, and he's just known for being the most jolly, loving, funny, and
Yeah.
that I love him. Like I have the
You
most
did great with it. Yeah.
yeah, it's just so mind bending because I have like I want to call it a crush, but it's his personality. You know, he's just like that. he's so in love with himself in a funny way, and then to see him just be this, like, evil
Yeah, I
evil
can't look at Footloose the same now. So,
Yeah,
they're like, "I know
yeah,
what you're doing when you're not in
yeah,
church."
yeah, yeah, it's so it's so yeah, yeah, that was he did such a good job in that, it's hard to look at him the same when did such a good job being an evil guy.
I was waiting for an alien joke in there, like, for him just to say something like, "What do you think, I'm an alien?" Something like
Yeah, yeah,
just
something.
let's put something like that in there, or, "I thought one time I'd like to be a preacher,"
Yeah.
It's just but I guess you got things you have to do and, time frames you have to stick with and budgets you have to be within when you're making
Right.
films and TV, so how does that compare with filmmaking and writing then? Like, is your writing mainly to do film, or are you doing more writing that isn't film and isn't TV and isn't scripts?
Oh, I do all sorts of writing. So, like, I do have a children's book that's out, and it's very therapeutic based without realizing that it's therapy. It's like an adventure book, a little fox going on an adventure, but you're kind of learning methods on how to overcome fear and those kind of things. I have lots of therapy worksheets out there. I don't know why I never put them into a little book. Like most of them are just on Etsy if people want to buy them, and I have them like, 25 cents to buy because I don't want it cost for people wondering why I don't just give them out free. If you put stuff on Etsy, it costs me to put stuff on Etsy. Otherwise, I would just have them free. Um, but I do print them out and give them to my clients for free, but I spend a lot of time making, like, really awesome fun worksheets for all ages of clients. Um, so I have lots of worksheets. I do wanna put them in a book someday that people can just, buy the whole book. But I have another children's book that I'm working on as well, but I have tons of scripts, films, and series. I had a series picked up at one point I wanna say originally it was picked up in 2020. It got a $26 million budget behind it, and then COVID happened, and then the writer's strike happened, and then the actor's strike happened, and now it's just been sitting, 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 and that one is like, n $26 million wasn't to me. Oh my gosh, I wish
Right.
that wasn't to me, but that was the budget on the to make it. So for all the for split between every all the actors and everything, the sets
Right.
and all that, which is a pretty big budget, not like the hugest budget, but that's a big budget for just a comedy type show. Um, but that's the one I like every day I wake up like, please be the email in my, sitting in there telling me we're gonna get this picked up and start moving on it again. Like in my gut, I'm just waiting. And we had actors picked out and already. And but so then I also have a lot of scripts writing. I tend to write a lot of horror for some reason, but my script that was picked up is a true story, well, based on a true story comedy drama. And so I just have like all sorts of stuff. It's just whatever I feel like writing that day, I guess. And just go with it. And I tend to work with a lot of horrific situations. So I think my brain tends to go in the horror direction a lot.
Do
So
you find that doing script writing made regular, like, novel writing easier in any ways? Or it added a dimension to it?
oh yeah, I think for me, so I want to say this first, like I'm not a good reader because I'm super dyslexic. Like it is my superpower is being dyslexic. And so I've never been a good reader, but I'm a good storyteller. So writing like novels and long stories, that's a struggle for me, but coming up with the stories and the arcs, that part's easy. It's like how do you formulate getting from all these points and make it make sense to other people. And people don't quite understand like dyslexia and all the variants. There's dyslexia is like a broad term for a lot of different things. And all those things don't just mean like you mix up your letters. It's not just that. It's like mixing up sounds, mixing up words, mixing up entire sentences, mixing up entire paragraphs,
Is it
making your
consistently mixing them up?
it
Like
can
E always looks backwards, or does it look different every time?
So there's different types of dyslexia. So mine mine could be like EW3M could all be the same letter for me. Um, but it's not it goes beyond that. So if you listen back to this later or people who are listening to it right now, when I listen back later, you'll find that I might repeat a lot of the exact same things I just said because my brain is looped. And it almost comes like somebody who has a stutter, only mine isn't a repeating of the same sound consistently. Mine's like a repeating of the same sentence
So are
because
you
my
telling
brain
me Joey 2 times has dyslexia? So he says everything's 2 times, 2 times?
I'm not sure who that is,
Right.
so I would have
It's like
to
a
ask.
it's like a you always hear like mafia names and they're like, this
Oh,
person got
oh,
this name because of this was not.
I mean,
He's,
it
I'm gonna
could
go
be
get the papers.
yeah, it could be, but it could be usually, a stutter is usually actually related more to an anxiety disorder, typically, um, or a compulsive disorder like,
Mm.
OCD, which people don't realize, like, how tied those are. But so my dyslexia has me repeating things all the time, and people don't realize. So in my writing, how often I'll write this whole paragraph this way, and then 4, 4 paragraphs down, I have the same situation happening, and my brain doesn't know that. I've just looped over making the same thing. So I have to go back a lot, and I'm like, am I deja vuing? You
Mm.
know? Because I'm like,
Which
"I
well, you
swear
just
I
take the
just"
best one, right?
Yeah. But I'm like, "I swear this just happened." And they're like and somebody else will be like, "Yeah, because you literally just said that, or you just did that." I'm like, "Okay, it's not just in my head. I did that." But yeah, because people just are told dyslexia is this, like, switching up, it's not dog, it's God, or, like, they flip the word around, and it's so much more than that. People don't realize, um, what goes on to a lot of these crazy diagnoses. There's so much more than just what you're being told or being, said. So, yeah, my
Is it
writing gets a little crazy
is
sometimes.
it a thing that is it's happening in the brain in the synapses, or is what's a better way to explain dyslexia if it's not getting letters backwards? I guess I should just look up the definition of dyslexia.
So like I was saying, dyslexia, there's like 17 different types of dyslexia, and so some of them is just gonna affect letters, some of them is gonna affect full words, some of them is gonna affect numbers, and it is the way your neurons are processing information. So and that's the same so usually how do I'm trying not to loop. I'm trying so
Oh, that's
hard
all
not
right.
I'm
Explain it to
trying
me. Well, you gotta do the 3 times. Tell somebody what you're gonna tell them, and then tell them what you told them. That's how
yeah,
people learn.
basically. So in our brain, we have these neurons, and let's say they basically look like an arm this way, right? And at the end, there's these fingers coming all over, and your messages, and your brain is filled with millions of these all over. And this is good information for no matter what, not just dyslexia, but no matter what you're thinking depression, anxiety, um, uh, anger, sadness, whatever, lack of motivation, I want to do the dishes and I can't get off my butt. Remind yourself of these neurons and stuff, right?
Okay.
Even think of playing basketball. Like I want to get better at basketball. Remind yourself of you have billions of these all over your brain. They're all connected to each other because after one of these is another one of these, and they're all connected, right? They're all
Okay.
sending information to each other. Well, if these aren't connected anymore, or there's a misconnection somewhere, or these are suddenly rewiring, so they're supposed to be like this. These ones are maybe supposed to be like this, but something happened, and now I'm trying to get a good angle on. You move my I might have 2 different cameras, and I'm trying to figure out which camera I'm on. So maybe they're supposed to be like this, but something happened. Now I'm like
Right.
this, right? So the information isn't quite making it, but it's trying. So it says, oh, I'm going to try to get to, oh, let's do this. So now my information is coming this way instead.
Mm.
But for me, in regards to my dyslexia, I'm going to keep practicing and keep practicing. So even though these two are like trying to take over and looping my words, looping my sentences, I'm going to just try to strengthen these ones maybe so they'll take over more. Strengthen these ones, they'll take over more. So even though I'm trying to wiggle the right ones, even though the wrong ones are still there and they're existing, I have stronger ones trying to take over. But you can say that with basketball too, right? I'm not very good at basketball because none of my dribbling skills are I'm trying to dribble, but I keep practicing. Now I have these two neurons telling me how to do it, but I have all these other ones not connecting. But I keep practicing. Now I have these two strong ones connected, these ones not. But I'm thinking about basketball so much, not practicing them still, but I'm thinking about it so much. I'm dreaming about it. Now these neurons are actually getting stronger too. So even though I'm not practicing, I'm thinking about it. So I'm improving my basketball skills just by thinking about it. Same here. I'm watching a lot of basketball on TV. My basketball skills are improving from watching it. So my neurons are improving. So somebody who just thinks about basketball is going to be better than somebody who doesn't think about basketball. Somebody who thinks about, I'm going to get up and be productive today is going to be more productive than somebody who says, I just want to lay here and do nothing. So just, your neurons are really powerful in your brain and can do a lot of things for you. And so that's why I'm saying remember those when you're feeling sad and just think a neutral thought. If you're like feeling super sad, start thinking neutral, strengthen those neutral neurons. Start thinking happy, start strengthening those happy neurons, and they'll start building new pathways. It's not going to happen. It's not just like, I thought a happy thought, therefore I'm happy now. But, over time, they'll start strengthening and the bad things will start weakening. And eventually they do die. Literally every second of every day, your cells are dying and new ones are being born. So let's kill all the bad ones. Get rid of them.
So new, your body makes new neural connections. Then it's not like it
Yes.
has to use the ones it has. Another one can grow up over here or there.
Yep. There's constantly, and as you age, they don't make new ones as quickly and as much. So, when you're younger, that's why when you're little and your parents are like, if you have kids, really watch what you're doing to your kids, people, watch what you're saying to them, how you're raising them, really think about it. I mean, not saying I'm a perfect parent. I was I had my nephew here the other back in December, and he was like trying to kind of crap on his parents, and he was saying like, my parents let me watch Family Guy when I was little, and I was like, oh yeah, I totally didn't let my kids do that, and I
Huh.
did. Like, it's not, none of us are perfect, but we kind of watch what we are letting our kids do because that's when their cells are making new cells quicker than they're dying. But as we age, they're not making new ones as quick as they're dying. So,
I feel like if you watch Family Guy when you're a kid, you miss out on 90% of the jokes. Like it's not as
yeah,
funny.
yeah, yeah,
Like I remember when the movie Big came out, and I was like, "Well, I'd like to go watch that." And my mom's like, "No, it's a grown-up movie." And I was like, "Well, it's about a kid that is grown up." And she's like, "Yeah, you won't understand it as much until you're a grown up." I was like, "Okay."
yeah,
So then I saw it when I grew up. It was okay.
yeah. I remember that was a good movie. That giant piano still to this day. I'm like, think about that giant piano, the floor
Yeah.
piano.
It's strange how your kid type things go away, it seems. Maybe it's different in different people, of course, but there's like the idea when you're a kid to be a person that thinks up new toys. What a great job. But now as an adult, I think, man, I wouldn't be as good at it as the 10-year-old me.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess those neurons died off and were replaced by
Right,
paperwork
right.
and taxes and other things.
Yeah, that's the thing is we start getting strengthening our neurons on the things that we don't wanna strengthen them on. We start strengthening them on the boring, not fun we really accidentally start strengthening our neurons on being grumpy old people, like,
Mm,
we don't wanna be that, but how many times are we just stuck in traffic being like, "I don't wanna be here," and that's, 10 hours of our week, and that's what we're focused on, like, "Here I am again," or
mm,
whatever the situation is, or how many in the grocery store, like, "Where is the freaking thing that I came here for?" And that's what our brain is being mad about, and we just kinda accidentally become it's not like we wanna go do that, but that's just nature, that's just what the society and the world has kind of made us become, we just don't go pick our own fruit anymore, which also doesn't sound like fun for the most part. There'd be days that I'm sure that's fun, but if I had to do it every day, I don't think I would like that. But,
yeah.
that's just we kinda accidentally force ourselves to be grouchy old people as we age. It's
Yeah,
I
I don't have the kid attention span anymore. I think like you could play, and maybe time goes by slower when you're a kid just because you have less experience, but the you could play Legos for hours,
yeah.
hours. And now, well, I don't have them anymore, but back when in my like mid 20s, still had them, and I thought, well, I'm going to make a castle or something. And then 5 minutes into it, I was like, I'm kind of bored of this. But this used to be a thing that was hours and hours and hours of time. So
Yeah.
it's, I guess I don't know if it's the natural way of occurrence or is it just creativity getting stamped out of your,
Yeah, I don't know. I
life.
remember when I first so I have kids of there's like a big gap between my older kids and my youngest son. And
Mm,
when I had my older kids, I remember specifically saying, like, "I'm only having kids, so it seems normal when I buy toys." Like, I'm gonna buy myself toys and pretend it's for my kids. But really, I remember just like when I buy toys and it's just like, I don't actually wanna play with this toy. I just wanted to have it. And now I guess you guys can have it because I don't really feel like playing with this stuff. But it's even worse with my younger son because he is so much younger, he's so much more spoiled than my older kids were.
mm,
Like, we're a little better off, for one, and now he's so much younger than even all my nephews and everything, so he's just the baby, and everybody's like, "Here you go, yeah, Prince," and so he has so much more toys, and and nobody wants to play with him, so it's just like, "Here's here's all the things," and it's just "Oh, okay, sure, I'll come play with you," but me playing with him is like, I just lay on the floor and watch him, you know? Like,
you got to
you
develop
go
a theme
yeah,
and
yeah.
then work through that like a TV show. Yeah. You don't tell
Right.
them that's what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, sometimes, like, why don't you draw a road on my back and drive your cars all over me or something, like, I'll be the road and you drive on me. But
Mm,
he does like Legos. His main toy he plays with is Legos, which I'm very supportive of, that he's so creative that way, but you're like, they are so
yeah.
boring to me now, but like you
Our
when I
big
was younger,
three
they were
were
cool.
Legos, GI Joe, the action figure, and
Mhm.
Transformers. That was the big
Oh,
three.
transfer I got
I mean,
I got one
you
of
still
mine
have,
from one of
oh,
mine right here
Soundwave,
from when I was this was
Soundwave, yes. Hmm.
yep, this is my from when I was a little kid. This is my 1980 I think I got this in 1984 right here.
Oh, I didn't have that one, so he looks different to me than I remember him. But my cousin had that. I had Megatron, the gun,
Oh,
and
yeah. I'm missing
that was
his
when it was
he
made out of
had a
metal and
tape.
it looked like a gun.
Oh, yeah. I lost his tape. He came with a tape. For people who don't know, he turns into a cassette player with
Yes,
the
Ravage, Laserbeak. Ravage was the cat, like a puma or whatever, and then
Mhm.
Laserbeak was the pterodactyl. I think there was another bird one too because they're like, hey, this is easy. Let's make another one of these.
Right, right.
But hmm,
Oh, transfer
that's
I
in
have a
pretty good shape for 80s.
Yeah, yeah. I have a giant Transformer tattoo on my side. Transformers is one of my favorite. My youngest too, so I'm like, we have that. We have that to bond over at least.
Nice. We'll always have Transformers.
Yeah, we'll always have that.
Has he seen the cartoon
Of
movie?
course. Yep.
Okay,
Of
yeah.
course. Yeah.
It's the year
I have them on
2005.
yeah, I have them on DVD. So, So we've seen them. Plus, I think they're on like streaming something. We have Paramount Plus, so I think they're on Paramount right now. So we've been watching everything.
We saw the Transformers the movie, the cartoon, in the movie theater, and I remember when it starts off with it's the year 2005, thinking, man, I'm going to be so old in 2005. And now, strange.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. So then, when you were writing, did you start writing children's books, or was it more of the ideas for film and TV or scripts?
So the first thing I actually wrote that I pursued to become something was my series that got picked up, although it wasn't just like I wrote it and pushed and it got picked up. It took like, let's see, when did I write that? I wanna say it took about 12 years for my series to get attention on it. It took a long time, and it didn't get too much finessing between that, but I'm a nobody. Nobody knows who I am. I had no real, like, writing background or not. So it's not like I had to go rewrite and then people were, "Oh, this is okay, but if you change it this way or that way," like, it's pretty much the same script, the same. It's called a Bible when you write a whole series, they call it the Bible. So it's like,
Okay.
or not the series isn't called the Bible, but you do, like, what's gonna take place, and you have to have, like, each character's, like, origins and all that kinda stuff, so you have to have all that marked out and stuff, so I had the whole Bible. Originally, I just had the pilot episode done, and then somebody would look and kind of advise me this way, and so I'd add to the Bible and make these, so then I added more episodes and things along those lines, and so it took me about 12 years to start getting attention on it, and then before it got picked up and then dropped and then picked up and dropped and now in holding. Um, so that was, like, the first thing I wrote, and it did make me feel pretty awesome that it even in the beginning that people were even, like, looking at it and being like, "Oh, you have something, you should try to do this with it, like, try adding and going places with it." So, to go from something to or going from not knowing what I'm doing and having somebody be like, "Oh, yeah, go do this thing with it." Like, that was pretty cool. I don't know why I didn't start with children's books, though. I feel like that's a feels like the easiest place for anybody to start. Do you know how to say words? Cool, write a children's write a children's book. That seems like the easiest place to start. I feel like I was born to be a mom. I've kind of always worked with kids. I have, I'm, like, 16 years older than my next sibling, you know? So, like, I was a teenage mom without actually being a mom, you know? So I've
Mhm.
kind of just been geared up to be a mom forever, and then I started having my own children, and I feel like with my older 2, I was, like, an excellent mom when they were born, and I don't know why I just didn't start with children's, and then working with children. I mean, I was so focused on just, like, being the best for kids in general, not just my kids, but I was already doing children's psychology and then hit hard heavy into making sure with my kids. And they are so good. They're both in college, they're teenagers, they graduated early, like, my teenagers are what everybody wants as teenagers. My 6-year-old, he's a good kid, but he's a spoiled little guy. He's
Mm,
he
don't show
does
him this.
he's
Goodness.
oh, he knows. He's very well behaved, but he's also, like, a little bit entitled, and he knows he is, but he's well, like, he kinda earns it at the same time while being like, "Can you just be grateful?"
He's like
Um
a grandkid now. So you've had your kids and now you've had your own grandkid.
Yeah, pretty much. Man, I was like an old they called me geriatric during my pregnancy with him even. I'm literally an old person being pregnant with this guy. But yeah, I don't know why I didn't start with children's books. It like looking at who I am as a person, it seems like that's where I should have started and I just didn't. I didn't start until I had my youngest. And he was really my inspiration to go that route. He he was like, "Mom, let's do this." And he didn't really help me with it, but he likes to think that he did because his middle name is Fox, and my first children's book I wrote was the character is a fox, so
Mm.
so he helped me in that sense. Um, yeah, so I don't know. I just guess I just took that script and felt like I just wrote one day because I was bored and thought this is a good idea. That script started with my sister-in-law lost her baby. He was born with a very, very rare genetic, disease and passed away at 12 weeks old, and that's where that was, like, I guess, my way of processing my nephew's death, and, um, I thought maybe it would help her too, and her involvement over the years became less and less. I hope that someday, like, once it got picked up, I really thought that she would be more involved, and I hope once we get going that she reenters, because I do think it'll be good for her, but I think it's heartbreaking for her at the same time. Um,
Yeah.
but it is like I said, it's a comedy though too. Um, it's
I
just
just
a
keep saying that. It's a
yeah,
comedy.
yeah,
What
I mean,
happens? It's about this kid.
it's about the death of a
Guys.
baby.
Yeah.
But it's just about, like, overcoming tragedy because it starts out with that bad situation, but then it's, like, all these a bunch of different people's tragedies and how they're overcoming their tragedies. So it wasn't only her story, but a bunch of different people that I met. And so it does lead to a lot of, like, funny, happy situations, lights at the end of the tunnel. So that's why it's a comedy, but that's how it started. And that's just where it started, and I feel like a lot of people, if they wanna get into writing, just start small and keep going. Like, that's how you learn, right? Is just do a little, fill it out, do what feels good, and build from there. Like, then you'll get there eventually. And do it for
Yeah.
yourself. Do it for yourself. Like,
I think the big difference between writers and not writers is you have to write it down. So that means anytime you get that line in your head or an idea for a scene or whatever, that you have to write that down somewhere and then do something with it later. But that first step is realizing what it is and then putting it somewhere and then doing more with it later. But yeah, writers write.
right. Yeah, and we live in such an interesting time because it right now is kind of the easiest time if you have a project, writing, film, podcasting, photography, I don't know, whatever your project is, whatever your passion project is, now is the easiest time to make it come true, but it's probably also the hardest time to get an audience on it. But now is your time to actually do it. Like, if you wanna write a book, this is the easiest time to have a publisher find you. You can literally Google, "Find a publisher near me," And you couldn't do that 5 years ago even, it was so much harder. 10 years ago, probably impossible. So, like, if you have a passion project, now's the time like, why not? Just do it. What's the harm? It's almost no money to get started on a lot of these, especially with the writing stuff. Like, if it's gonna be your basic costs. What are you using to your pens, your papers, your writing equipment? But most of it's not gonna cost you if you're finding somebody who's like, "I'll only charge you $20,000 to let me don't go with them then, because there's somebody
Mm.
out there free. Somebody out there who's gonna do it for free because they're gonna make money off of your sales, right? So and that means both of you are making money. So find that person who's gonna make money off of you making money. So, like, you're not gonna even have to put money into your passion project. Just go out there and, if you have this idea, there's at least one other person out there who's interested in your idea. So you might as well, put it out there. At least one other person's gonna be inspired by you or feel connected or feel listened or heard by you. So might as well just Now's the time. Now's as good a time as any. I feel like COVID should have taught us all that. Now's the time. Why wait
Yeah, it's when
till
you look at famous writers or famous writers now and look at when they were alive that they weren't doing very well. So then you go, well, this is just for after I'm gone. This is what I'll leave behind is this thing, and somebody will see it and maybe they'll do something with it or it'll inspire them to do something else. Is that
right?
kind of the thinking behind the Wolf Media stuff?
Yeah, the Wolf Media Festival that I have going on, mine for that, my idea really was I just like to help people. And I know it sounds so stupid, but this festival is really giving a voice to a lot of people who are trying to express themselves in so many different ways. And as I was mentioning before, like this isn't an easy time to get people to get eyes on you necessarily. So I'm trying to be a way to get eyes on people. And we are not, like we have all these people coming in and we're not taking money from people. So we're, like I'm not a publishing company or anything like that. So it's not like I can offer an author I can't publish your book for you, but I can give you a booth to help sell your books. Or same with the filmmakers, I have a way for you to screen your films, for you to come sell your films, that kind of thing. I promote your stuff for you, things like that. Just trying to get eyes on you. We have our own podcast as well. I have been hosting it a little bit recently, but I'm typically not the host. We have two really awesome hosts, but sometimes one of them isn't available, so I've been filling in a little bit, and I feel like I'm a dork a little bit, so I don't do as
That's
good
what it
as
takes.
them. I just feel like I'm not quite as good as our hosts, um, but I do have fun when I do it, so I can't say I'm, like, mad when I have to do it, but they're better than me. But so we just try to get eyes on as much and try to promote everybody who gets involved in our festival. We're not here trying to make money off of people at all. So we're not like trying to take a cut of anybody's things. It's really just my version of trying to give people an opportunity to express themselves in creative ways. Like that's literally it in a nutshell. People can go on and I mean people can look me up as much as they want and see that I'm just a person. I'm just a
What's
person
the
trying to do
podcast?
things. It's just the Wolf Media Festival podcast, that's all it's
Okay.
called. Um, yeah, so we just interview some of, like, the filmmakers who win at our festival, the authors. I think that's all we've had is, like, some of the actors, some of the directors, some of the authors so far is all that's come on the podcast, but we take submissions from a lot of different category or subjects. We're trying to get podcasts going. Um, we're trying to get photography going. We're trying to get game creators going. We've got no game creation submission, and that was like video games, board games. We've literally got no people submitting any of those. And we just want like people who are creative. We want to celebrate you and share your stuff with the world. And like I said, like we're not taking money from you. We're just like doing what we can to to show you off. So um and we don't take a percentage or any like we're literally not taking stuff from you. So yeah, so if they're making games and want us to promote you, come on over. Happy
How
to
did
do
y'all
it.
get how'd you get started with the podcast?
Our podcast was just a branch off idea. I was like trying to figure out how can we showcase more some of our winners of our festival. So the festival originally was just a film festival that one of my films had won at, and I wasn't a part of the. I I didn't work at the festival or anything. It was just the Wolf Film Festival, and I had a film submission there. We won um, in one of the categories. Some of my actors won there, and are some of the actors from my film. They're not my actors. They had won, and I was like, "My last name's Wolfheart. Do you guys need me? Like, I'm a great spokesperson, whatever. They told me they're gonna sell their festival, or they didn't say they were gonna sell it. They said it was gonna be their last year of their festival. Um, and I just asked some questions like, "What's up with that?" And I asked about, "Can I purchase the festival maybe?" So we've been in contract with that. I decided let's expand the festival to, well, I'm sorry, I lied. They were a film and script festival before, so they took films and scripts before. I said, "Let's expand it. Let's get authors and photog like, let's be way more creative. Let's get all sorts of media." So we upgraded it a bit to media, and, I'm still not the owner. I was supposed to be the official owner as of January 20th, but I'm not quite the owner as of yet, just some behind the scenes, contracts they have with other, like, investors and stuff, so they haven't been able to transfer things over to me quite yet, but soon. Anyways, working on that, but we decided, like, how else can we boost and promote these creators of various types of creators and showcase their work more, and I was like, "Well, podcasting is an obvious choice that they can come talk about their project, talk about themselves, talk about other projects they're working on, give them, a spotlight a little bit." So we do that as well, and, we're doing okay. We've only been doing that for a couple months now, and I think we get about 10,000 listeners a month, and
Gracious.
then my yeah, we
What's the technical side of the podcast? Like, where do you film it? What equipment do you use? How
same.
often do you do it?
I use this I we use StreamYard like you.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, so when you're, like, explaining everything, I was like, "Mhm, I know."
Oh,
Um,
okay. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so my host one of my hosts, Richard, he uses StreamYard. He has a daily show actually, and he kills. He gets like 100,000 views a day with his daily show, that he has, and it's called, Make Your Day Richer is his daily show that he does, and so I brought him. I never This is so mean, but I actually had never heard of him when I interviewed him for my to be a host of my podcast. Um, but I fell in love with him. He comes off very, almost like a children's TV host or something. He's very, happy kinda guy. And I was just like, "I love this guy," so I wanted him, and, he's the one who turned me on to StreamYard, and we do it just sort of the same format, video. Our show we do usually about once a week, depending on how often. We've never done it more than once a week. We have done it less than once a week, though, but it's usually about once a week that we have a guest, come on, and yeah, it's doing pretty good, I would say. For being a new podcast, I think we're doing okay.
Do you do all the scheduling for it, like scheduling guests and getting the show ready and posting it and everything?
Yeah, I try to. One of the, there's another gal, from the original, festival owning who she kinda helps out a little bit still, but I think she lives in France, so it gets a sometimes it gets a little frustrating because her time what she's either in the United Kingdom or in France. I can't remember where she's from, but she's in a very different time zone than me, so when she's scheduling stuff, I know, bless her, I know she's trying to help, but I'm always like, "What did you do?
Yeah.
What what did you do?" And then a lot of times, like, we're doing an actor, so they're probably, like, in LA a lot of times, and so then it's
Mhm.
already I'm in Florida, they're in LA, she's in the UK or in Florida I mean, in France or the UK, one of those, so she's, like, 7 hours ahead of me, they're 3 hours behind me. I'm like, "What's happening right now?" But she does try to help out a lot. When she sends them the reminder email, that is always I'm like, "Thank you so much," because I almost always forget to do that. So I'm like, "Thank you for that one," but almost all the other emails, I'm like, "Please, can you don't can you not do those ones?" Um, but yeah, we use, a so when we announce monthly winners, so we get submissions all month long for different categories of films and all the different things, and then we announce winners every month. When they get their winner email, we let them know they can be on our podcast. Um, and then we send them an appointlet. I think it's called appointlet. Let me look real quick. Sorry. Yep, appointlet is a scheduling app that we use, and
Mm.
so I just send them a link, and then they schedule themselves for that. And I don't pay for appointlet, so it does not send the reminders to them. That's why this other gal does it, or because I almost never remember to do it. So she usually sends those out for me, and yeah. So yeah, it's pretty easy. And I do a pre-questionnaire for them sometimes, or she usually sends that out if I don't. And yeah, just usually chit chat like this, try to hit on their project a little bit, hit on them a little, not hit on,
Oh,
like,
nice.
like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
You single or what? No,
Mm.
try to talk about them a little bit, talk about their project a little bit, and just try to promote them as much as possible. And I got to get better at like actually promoting. I feel like once we started hitting the 10,000 mark that I quit promoting us, and that's like the whole point was I wanted to promote their work, and I kind of been slacking on that, and I just like hit the
I don't know.
10,000
I
mark
mean,
and I was like, "We're good."
yeah, if you got to 10,000 with a certain formula, then maybe that's the formula to keep going with. But I think also when it gets a little too commercially, it's maybe people look at podcasts like they do a conversation,
Mm,
and it's more of just like you want to feel like you're in the room. You don't get to interject, but it's just people talking. And
yeah.
it seems like lately people are not as good at talking to each other as they maybe it used to be, or maybe there's just more opportunity to do it and people are worse at it. I don't know. But I like the conversational format. And then sometimes doing this podcast, people get commercially like they're on to, it's definitely to talk about a certain thing. And I don't have a problem with that. But it's when I don't know, it turns into an infomercial and that gets more disappointing because I'm not going to watch it. But I mean, you figure there's probably tens of people watching now. So it's, that was a joke. So,
Yeah, I know, I got it.
okay.
One ones
The,
ones of peoples. Yeah.
yeah, like my mom will probably be watching, but the, I didn't know that she watched them until I had a guy on there that was from, he's outside of the country, was running for president and talked about prostitutes and cocaine. And she called me and was like, that person is terrible. If that was the first one I watched, I wouldn't watch any more of them. And I was like, what,
Oh, wow.
why are you watching any of them?
Yeah,
I
no,
didn't
mom,
realize
please.
that was happening. But yeah, so the podcast thing is interesting. The technical side, I think people are interested in too, because a lot of people get into podcasting. So it's not something that I think I'd talk about for hours, because you have the bigger crowd of people that are watching for the creativity topic, and then also the specialty things. Like if you're writing a book about an adventure and you have some parts about sailing and you get really technical about sailing, don't do it for a chapter. Do it for a
Right,
page or so, so people
right,
can look at it and go, nevertheless, I'll continue on with the adventure. I don't need to know what, a jib is or a mainsail, or understand
right.
how to put up a golly wobbler. But it's, yeah, I like that type of podcast. And then I look at a lot more podcasts or listen to them a lot more than I used to. Like it's taken place of TV as a kid. So you can do things while you're listening to this conversation. And
Did
it's
you
nice.
when you were younger, did your parents listen to talk radio, though?
Not that I remember. I mean, I've listened to talk radio, but I don't
I
remember listening to it growing up.
I don't remember my mom so much. My parents were divorced, like, before, not literally before I was born, but, like, before
Mm,
I was born.
the day
And
after.
so,
Yeah.
I don't remember my mom listening to it so much, but my dad and my stepmom, I feel like that's all they listened to. And I remember thinking it's the most boring thing on the planet, and
Mhm.
now as an adult, like, alls I don't listen to talk radio necessarily, but I never have not a podcast on. I always I'm like, "Is
Yeah.
this not the same as talk radio?
Yeah,
Am I
like
my
Paul
dad?
Harvey
Oh,
or
no."
yeah, Paul Harvey or something like that, that was on regular radio, but not like an AM. When we were listening to AM, it was because we were listening to Dukes of Hazzard because
Mm.
we couldn't like I didn't eat dinner and I couldn't watch Dukes of Hazzard after that, so I had
Oh,
to go to bed, but I had a Walkman that was a radio, not a tape player, a radio,
yeah,
and, you fall asleep listening to Channel 6 with,
yeah,
mm. Yeah, podcasting. I like it. How do you do
yeah.
your keep track of the people you've had on and the people you've asked to be on? Like, what is your success rate? Is a lot of questions in one. What's your success rate of people that you ask to be on that are? And then how do you keep track of people you've asked and people that have been on?
Oh, yeah, so it's a little embarrassing because before I even decided to do the podcast, I put filler because we had there's all the winners. There was like 6 years of winners before I even came into the festival, right? The festival had its years of winners ahead of time. And then I come in and before I decided to buy it, I was just gonna come in and like work for it a little bit and see if I wanted to buy it. And I reached out to all these people, kind of just seeing like, let's put the fillers out and see if a podcast is even a good idea.
Mhm.
Because I didn't wanna, like, put all this effort into it and it turn out to be like a dud, right? Like, everybody's like, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of." So I email mass quantities of people, and I get responses like, "Oh, man, this is such a great idea," or, like, "I can't do it now, but when I had my project out, I would have loved to do this podcast." And then the more recent people being like, "Yes, yes, yes, I wanna do this." So I think of at that time, we had about 70 or 80 people being like, "Yes, let's do this podcast. My project's out now. It's hot now. I would love to be promoting it. This is awesome. Let's do it." So I start searching for hosts and searching how to do a podcast and finding I originally hired 3 hosts. One of them, her schedule, a big conflict of schedule. She's the dean of a Christian college in I wanna say Kentucky, but I can't remember, and so her and it was, like, right at the beginning of the school year, and then I have this other, like, this lady who's, her name's Kyle Hollingsworth, and she's a mystic, and she has her own podcast, and then I have Richard with his Make Your so I had this, like, varying range of, like, different types of people, and I was like, "This is gonna be the coolest podcast ever," and doing all this research on these different types of people because I thought we're having all these different types of projects coming in. I wanted like this really cool group of people. Anyways, the dean, her schedule didn't work out, but she's awesome. I still love her dearly. I'm sad it didn't work out. So I got Richard Kyle set up, send these schedules out to about the 70 or 80 people who said they wanted to do it. I got like 4 hits back of like, yeah,
Mhm.
let's it's on the schedule. I'm like, "Oh man, this is so" and it was like from the same film even or whatever I think it was a film. Like they were all from the same movie, I mean, not film necessarily, but the same movie, and I'm like, "Oh, man, okay, so we're gonna do 4 different episodes of the same movie, that's gonna be so boring." Like,
Well, it's like the
and
Family Guy joke. It's the practice.
yes, exactly. I'm like, "Okay, cool." Oh my god, and I'm like, "Okay, so do I just release 1 a month for now?" Or I don't even wanna do them back to back like that because they're the same movie, it's not I was thinking even if it was like a series or something, at least I'd be a little like, make a little more sense why we had it, back to back people because it's like this episode's about something different or whatever, but no, it was a movie even. So I was like, "Okay, this is so embarrassing because I was so hyped up that all, like, 80 people were, like, so pumping me up that we're ready." So I think eventually I got about 10 people, but that was because, like, more projects came in and I had just started putting in their winning email, started putting that part of their winning email, and every month we send out, like about 50 people went between all the categories. There's like 50 winners every month. So, and of 50 winners, we get, 5 people signing up. So,
Wow.
so not very many. And then even it's been less each month. Like in December, we had none. And so I'm like, cool.
Wow, that's strange, especially when they did something to win,
Yeah.
and then they
It's,
wouldn't come and talk about it. Wow. Like,
yeah.
I thought
So,
my success rate was bad, but, like, I have,
and
like, a 50% of people I send things to that actually will be on the show, that
yeah. And
sometimes they
it's,
don't respond, sometimes they respond and then don't show up, but yeah.
but I think, like, the extra crazy part too is, like, okay, so I get when there's an author, it's just like, you are the one author who won, right? But when it's a film, we're not just inviting, like, the director of the film. So maybe you won best director, but we're like, any cast and crew, any like, there could be 500 people from your
The
one
grip.
project. Yeah, like, anybody. And it's like, nobody showing up, and our schedule is, you can book up to, like, 6 months out. So it's not like, just because you won in December doesn't mean you have to book in December. Um, 'Cause, yeah, maybe December and January is a crazy month for you, so, okay, maybe February or March works better, but, yeah, so we're getting, um it's, like, been real hit or miss. It's been, I'm actually really shocked at how few people, um, who want to promote their own project. I'm really happy to promote for everybody, but, it's kinda shocking to me how few people are so shy. That I think it really comes down to how shy they are. I get it, I'm shy too, but, like, right now it's just me and you talking, and we're not live, it's not an audience, you know what I mean? Like, it's easier. We're just having a conversation, and it is cute. We've had more, I would say, at least 5 of our, I think we've done 27 episodes now, and, like, 5 of them have been, like, shaking nervous during their interview. Like, literally, like, "We gotta pause this," so they
Wow.
can, and it's adorable to me. Like, I feel bad. I don't mean like it's like, I'm not trying to make fun of them, but it's so
Right.
interesting to me that, just the conversation is so anxiety inducing to them, but I'm so proud of their work, and I'm so excited to celebrate their work for them, with them, and here they are just so nervous about it, and, like, this is a great thing, like, let's be happy about it together, and my hosts are super awesome. They're, like, the most cool people, like, they're just loving and adorable, and like,
Yeah,
let's hang out.
it's a different thing to work on a project yourself or with other people and then put a put a finished product out and then to go talk about it, even if it's recorded and not live. Like, I think the only thing that is different from my perspective of live versus recorded is the worry of, will the person show up on time? Like, I've
Right.
had enough people that didn't show up that if I had a live show and I'm on and nobody's there, then that's going to be disappointing. Like, it'll feel like failure
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
The so it's but I don't do a lot of editing either. So
Mm.
if something strange happened, it's most likely going to be in the recording anyway. So, UPS delivers something or a cat runs across the screen or whatever, then it's just going to be in there. But
Mhm.
yeah, maybe it's something to the creative type people are less likely to want to talk about it. Maybe, but it seems like actors, and I say actors as actors and actresses, but I don't know if we still have to make the designation. But you think they would be the ones that are like, yeah, yeah, I want to talk about that. Yeah, I'll be on your show.
Yeah,
Or
that
maybe,
that actually surprised me that I really thought they would be the ones beating down the door. I've noticed, or what I've come into contact with, I guess that's a weird way to phrase it, but the directors seem to be the ones who are the more, when it comes to the festival winnings, the directors are much more the attention-seeking babies. That is such a mean way to phrase it, but they are the ones who are emailing me 400 emails, asking 400 questions in each of those 400 emails, really like needing me to hold their hand the entire time. And I don't mind it. It doesn't bother me. But I really would expect that more in my brain, how we've like pedestaled actors. That's what I would expect. But almost all these actors that are coming through are like indie actors, and they're just most like the most chill, grateful, just happy to be here people. Um, the authors have all been cool that we've interviewed. I mean, the directors that we've interviewed, they've been cool and chill. It's just like the emails are like that is their when their brain is like going 1,000 miles per hour.
Yeah, they're used to being in charge and having answers for everybody, and now they're not in charge and they don't have any answers. So
Yeah, yeah.
maybe they
So it's
have
been
other
kind of
people that are
funny.
asking them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
Wow.
interesting.
Well, then with StreamYard, I've looked at other things before I started doing a podcast, and I've only been doing it a little over a year. And my biggest worry, number one, was will I have a guest? And how often do I do the show? Do I do it multiple times a week or once a week, once a month? I wanted to maintain a consistency. And I find that in the podcast I listen to, the daily ones that come out, I'm listening to them the day they come out. And then the weekly ones kind of fall away sometimes, and I'll catch up with them and listen to 2 or 3 in a week.
Mhm.
So I feel like the once a week formula is probably not the best for a type of person that I'm listening, or the type of person that I am, but that's the show, every Wednesday. And then when I first started, it was I'll try to do enough to have 2 or 3 a week, but I still wanted to put them out on Wednesday. And then I thought, well, that's might not be fair to the people that are on there, because then it's 3 episodes released in one day. They don't really get showcased on their own.
Right.
So I felt bad about that, especially not paying anyone. That it's the reason they're here is to talk about whatever. And so I wanted to give them the proper space for that. So then when I was recording 4 or 5 a week, that felt like a job. And if you were getting paid for it, then maybe that's different. But when you're doing it yourself and you're paying to do it, when
Yeah.
you're paying StreamYard, you're paying whatever other servers or whatever, that it's a little different. So you have to find something that you can maintain on your own that still falls within that bounds of I'm having a good time doing it. Because there's a lot of times doing a podcast, and I would imagine that most people feel this way at some point, is what am I doing? What am I doing this for?
Right.
And so if you have a good topic, that's good. So my topic is creativity, which pretty much covers almost anything,
Everything,
but
yeah.
still it's a certain type. You can put it into that topic. And then yours having the contest, that seems great, because it's like, well, you're going to have people. If you have people entering the contest, you're always going to have people that are ready to go on the podcast.
Or
So
so I thought.
yeah, concerns me a
Yeah.
little, but which is the number one thing of, am I going to have enough people, and are they going to show up? So
Right.
then with matchmaker.fm, where you have people that have podcasts and people that are looking for podcasts, that's a great service that matches them up. And that, when I started doing that, like the first 10 or so podcasts were people I knew, or people that I knew,
Mm.
they knew the people. And then I was like, man, this is going to be tough to keep going with this and not know if I'm going to have somebody else the next week. And
Right.
then with Matchmaker FM, it's worked out pretty well, scheduled out until June now, with the idea of doing one episode every Wednesday, releasing it, and then having enough of a cushion where if somebody canceled or didn't show up, that there's another 1 or 2 that are waiting to get published. But I want to have it published close to the time it was recorded, just for the sake of current events. And
Right,
you
right.
don't want to record something and then the person is waiting months before it's published.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem fair.
Right.
So, and I think it comes down to the podcast is conversation, and I would be doing that anyway. And I've met so many different people that I wouldn't have met not doing this, like just going to a writers group, that's great. You meet some strange people, strange and interesting people there, which is good. That's the whole point. And
Right.
then this, you're opened up to the world. So it's good enough to keep going. I would take 12 million from 12 to 120 million from Spotify to do 2 or 3 shows a week. I would do that. But even as it is right now, it's still worth it because you get to talk to interesting people.
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly haven't had very much luck on, Matchmaker FM. I don't know, do you not get scam like, not I haven't fully been scammed on there, but do you not get people trying to make you pay all the time on there?
Yes, here is my perspective of your message from matchmaker.fm, which is what I used to do. I put too much information in the initial contact. And since it's more like a text and less like an email, one little paragraph of, I do this show about this thing. I saw your stuff about this. Are you interested in being on?
Mm,
And that's better than a lot of times you'll get a text on matchmaker.fm that you have to scroll through and you're like, oh, this is just something they're sending to everybody. You could
right.
still just send that paragraph to everybody. It could be a form paragraph, a little personalization, maybe not. But I think when you start to talk about the contest, and I think if I'm remembering correctly, the text from you had about creativity and then it also had about the contest. Maybe split those and do it. I'm not an expert at this. This is just what I think from my side of putting a podcast together that tens of people watch and then putting, being on a podcast, like they're just that perspective. So the shorter messages, the better. And then I would check back in a day or two after I sent the initial message because
Mm,
sometimes people don't check it every day or they don't get an alert for it. And I have a spreadsheet that has all the people I've sent a message to. And then if the show is scheduled, it's in one color code for the spreadsheet. And if it's already recorded, it's in another one. I didn't want to send a text to someone, they not respond. And then a month later, I send them the same text, not
right.
knowing that I've already sent one to them. So after I send them that initial one, I color code that on my spreadsheet, and then in a couple days I'll send another one that just says, what do you think about any other thoughts on being on the HDC
Mm,
podcast? And then if I don't hear anything from them, I just put it in red on the spreadsheet and highlight it in red and just say didn't respond or dropped off communication. You get a lot of the initial, yeah, I'm interested, and then you don't hear anything else from them. And I haven't had so many no calls, no shows as I did at the beginning. And I don't know if that's just because I changed my initial message or the way I contacted them. I'm not sure why that is the case, but it has turned into less no call, no shows because I guess you get that feeling. This is psychology working in here. You get that feeling of, oh, well, this is through my experience. This is a person that's not going to show up and I'm never going to hear from them again. Or I'm going
mhm.
to hear from them up to the day of the recording and then I'll never hear from them again. So
Yeah.
that's the rough part of it, but that's also the learning experience. So I'll go with that. But maybe my insight for yours is shorten the message and see what happens.
Well, I kind of on there, I've kind of quit reaching I feel like I stopped talking to people months ago because as my personal me profile, it's switched where everybody's, like, contacting me to be on their show, and, I'm I'm kind of
Okay.
and it's all about me being a trafficking victim psychologist, and I've
Hmm.
kind of feel like I've said all I can say. I've been
Yeah.
on, like, 40 podcasts at that point talking about that, and I'm like, I don't think I can say anything new at this point. I'm all about talking about it, spreading the message, how to prevent it, how to help people in that situation, but I can't talk about it anymore. But I've gotten to the point where people are like, "Oh, man, I've seen your work. You do amazing stuff. We want you on our podcast. We really wanna help spread your message. We'll only charge you $500 to come on our podcast." I
Oh,
get
wow.
messages like that. I'm like, "No, no. Like, I know I'll bring you views. I'm going to charge you. I flipped it around a couple of times where I say, oh, you need to contact my agent. Our booking fee is like $5,000 per episode. I've just like made up random numbers where I throw it back at them. But I've had for our podcast has a Matchmaker FM account too, but it says that it's mostly leading people to our website to submit their projects.
Yeah, your
And it
websites look good.
Thank
So
you. Um, but it's the same, like to submit your project and that we will interview winners, but people don't read what our thing is. And so they're just like I've had like one person argue with me on there. I'm like, "Oh, did you submit a project? I would love to like what is your project name? I want to make sure that our judges got it," and that kind of stuff. And they're like, "No, just interview me anyways." I'm like, "What? It doesn't work that way." Like,
yeah,
um,
I don't know if it's getting some sort of critical mass or experience that you can't explain otherwise, or it's just the way the filter works. But maybe if you had some people on the Wolf Media one that were just maybe they weren't contest winners, they were in the business, because there's a few podcasts on Matchmaker FM that are contest type game show type things,
mhm,
which some of them are really successful. I've talked to some of them as well, but then there's others that you're like, it feels scammy, or it feels unctuous. I don't know. It feels like it's not something you want to be involved in for whatever reason. So I
right,
think that's why if you have the shorter message, it's good. And then if you open it up, I could see if you had a podcast where you're just talking to winners and it's a really popular contest, that you're going to be good theoretically. But
right,
then I also think you drop out a bunch of people that want to be on podcasts or looking to be on podcasts when they have to enter a contest first to win. So maybe it's more look for people that are in the business and talk to them about, we have a contest winner this week, and now next week we're going to talk to this person that's made this many movies, or that's making a movie, or making their first movie, or whatever, and build the audience like that. Maybe that creates awareness for the contest too, because people will listen to that and go, oh, well, maybe I want to enter a contest. And then,
yeah, we had a couple just like celebrities lined up, like known celebrities lined up, and always so far their schedules have always been like, "Oh, we have to cancel today or move." And I'm like, I know I feel so bad saying this out loud, but I'm like, I'm dependent on you boosting my numbers. Like,
or
please.
just having a show. Yeah. On
Yeah, like
that's all.
I just like our like not only do I want the numbers boosted, but like we have a lot of indie artists who want your advice. We have a lot of indie
Yeah.
directors, actors, even screenwriters, those people who want your advice. And I feel like they're gonna come listen to you, feel more encouraged, and then when their projects are winning, then they're gonna come on my podcast as well. I'm like,
Yeah.
please. So I think we've had three so far who are just like have rescheduled like 10 times. And I'm like, you cannot be that busy to take, 30 minutes of your day.
I wonder
But
if you're
we
actually dealing with that person, or if it's just somebody that says that person.
yeah, one of them I know. One of them I'm
Mhm.
friend like I don't know if I'd say friends with anymore, but one of them is like an ex of mine, so I've talked to on the phone and being like, "You butthole, like, stop it. Just stop it
Maybe
already."
maybe find unknown celebrities.
Well, then nobody cares about them. Like,
I don't know. You got to have the practice. You got to do the practice. And
yeah,
I would think that they're learning the same lessons as the celebrity people are. I mean, you could get the same advice from someone that has only done a few projects than a person that's done a lot of them. I mean, it's going
right,
to be
right.
different, but hmm.
But it's like, are they tuning in to hear that advice though? Like, that's the thing. Like, if I
Yeah,
told
maybe
you
you're worried about if people are going to watch. I don't worry about that. So maybe that's my advice is skewed differently.
Yeah.
You're looking for a result, which is good. It's good. In
I
that
mean,
way
I feel
you
like
out go ahead.
almost all our episodes have, especially when it's the directors, I really feel like at some point they give a good advice in there. Sometimes the actors do as well. No, I'll take that. I'm going to take that whole segment back. I
Mhm.
feel that every one of our episodes, authors, screenwriters, whoever we've directors, actors, at some point everybody's given advice to somebody else. I feel like
Yep.
that comes in it at some point. And that was like one of my goals of the show, and it's just we haven't it was a goal of the show, but we haven't actually set out to do that. It just kind of has naturally occurred. So I mean, we do have it in the show. I just don't think that's why people are tuning in. I think mostly it's just like, "Oh, what's this about?" And so they tune in. They just happen to
Oh,
watch it or
really?
listen to it. Yeah.
So the crowd or the listeners are there for the entertainment value and not so much for the interest on the topic. Huh. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
I don't know, because I would watch it for the advice part of it, or I'll be entertained by the story, but I also am looking to come away with learning something. So,
Yeah, I'm not really sure because 'cause I'll like, we don't have a formula in our interviews of like, it's not like you come into an interview and know, like, we're gonna hit this, this, and this in each one. Um, so it's kind of chaotic, and one interview might be 15 minutes and one might be an hour long, so you really never
mm,
know what you're gonna get. And
yep.
we've had, how do I phrase it? We've had like more successful people come on and less successful people, but doesn't mean they don't have like equally as good advice, or like a less successful person might have more entertaining stories to tell
Mhm.
and that kind of stuff. So like it's really, you don't really know what you're going to get until you're listening to it. Um and I feel like I wish I could remember what episode it was. We had a um, one of the authors come in, she wrote a whole fantasy series. She's a former Marine, and she's so you wouldn't know, like, Marine blew my mind away because she's so, like, quiet and soft-spoken, and she just has, like, this, like, "Yeah, I just wrote this fantasy series," and she's just, like, real quiet and shy, and she's just talking about, like, all these world travels and all this crazy life that she lived, and she's just, like, so shy and quiet in the background the whole time, and you're like, what is happening right now? Who is this quiet, meek, adorable human with the most amazing life I've ever heard in my I've never even
I've never met a Marine like that. So,
I know my dad's a Marine, and he's the craziest person I've ever met in my entire life, and I'm like, "Did you when you say Marine, do you mean that you're a mermaid, or, like, are you talking
mm,
about marine life, or you're talking about military Marine? What do you mean by Marine?" She is the most that it blew my mind when I knew because when I first talked to her, she said something about, like, she had hurt her ankle, um something military, and I don't know, I for some reason, I assumed not Marine, I could tell you that, but, 'cause I know this sounds mean, but because she was a female, I just assumed not Marine, and that's my bad for stereotyping, I guess, but I did not assume Marine, and then later on, I found out Marine, and I was just like, "There's no way, that's not at all." Again, I should not be stereotyping people, but that she was not what I picture a Marine at all. She's just so petite
what'd
and
she do in the
quiet.
Marines?
I don't remember. I feel like she told us, but I don't remember, but she is just so reserved and quiet and shy, and
Well, it takes all kinds. I wonder where she learned that, because Paris Island definitely teaches you how to put a little bass in your voice. The It does take all kinds. I've met a bunch of operators in my time that were very unassuming, where you go, "Oh, I did not think this was the classic what you think a Navy SEAL's like," and then have
yeah.
met them where you go, "This is exactly what I thought the SEAL like, this is a Jocko guy versus," and even Jocko's more nuanced than the meathead like that you picture as a athletic go-getter in the military.
Yeah.
So the ones I've met where when I was in Virginia Beach, Norfolk area, and had a sailboat at a slip that was near one of the Navy's experimental boat ramps, and I, they're seals. They're all seals, but they don't look like what you think seals look like. They were all very polite, very nice. Never had an issue with them. But then, as a trooper in Virginia, I know there were seals that I would chase when they're on motorcycles because they're looking for this adrenaline rush, and they had license plates that would flip up and they just take off. So
Oh, yeah.
that was the aggravating side of it. But then you go, okay. Anyway, digress. There it takes all kinds.
Yeah. There's my husband's military too, and I feel like if I didn't tell you, you would never know. He's Air Force though, so maybe you would never know. He's
When
a
I was
gentle guy.
when we were in Kuwait, outside of the port of Schwaba or Spearhead, one of those, and we're in the motor pool Marines, and we just got our vehicles washed off at the Nestle factory, which you didn't think they'd make chocolate in the desert, but they do. And anyway, we couldn't wash them ourselves. They had to have contractors that washed them. And at that time, we called them Hajis because I think it was from Johnny Quest, the Haji guy. But it was I don't think it's derogatory. It feels weird to say to people that weren't there. But if you were there, that's what you called them. It's any Middle Eastern looking person that's out here being a contractor. Anyway, they're at Nestle washing everything, and then we drive them back to Spearhead, and we're waiting to put them on a transport boat home. And there's this big wall. It's an Air Force base, but we're outside of it because we're Marines. We don't go into the Air Force base. And you just see a head every now and then, like above the wall. Like, what is that? What is that? Anyway, one of the Marines had gotten inside to go to the like what the Air Force has is like a food court and a mini mall inside their base there. So they came and reported back, and apparently the head that was coming up every now and then, it's because that's where the Air Force's high dive was.
Oh.
Yeah. We're in the desert, which is not like a sand desert. It's like a dirt desert.
Right.
And it's 100 and whatever degrees, 120, 130. And we're just sitting out there baking. And then the Air Force have a high dive.
I know, spoiled little brat.
Yeah. So if I had it to do again, would I go into the Air Force? Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, but digress. Okay, so Marine lady, she didn't present as a Marine, but was. That's good. She's subterfuge.
Yeah, she's one of my. She's coming to our in-person festival in April, and I'm so excited to meet her because she's one of them that when I've re-listened to her episode a few times because she's just so one of the people that just blows my mind, like listening to her and all her amazing stories, and she's just so quiet and like it's just so interesting to me to see somebody who you would think is somebody that would just like be a shut-in who doesn't want to leave their house the way she seems so shy, but she is like a go-getter. Like everything she does is like, I'm out for adventure, but her demeanor is just like, I'll just be over here doing this thing. Like
nice. Well, she got all that other stuff out of her system. She could probably yell if she wanted to.
Yeah. And she's a mom, so I know she's got it in her. She's got it in her.
Her kids are all lined up and they're in formation when they go places. Yeah. You know what's going on. All right. So this is a show about creativity. So maybe to round it up here from the psychological view and the experience of all the creative outlets you've had, where do you think that ideas come from?
Oh man, where do ideas come from? Well, I think realistically they're inspired from wants, desires, or things we see in our life. Like, I mean, at the core, it's like inspired from our own life, either something that we already see in our life or something that we see, like, how do I say it? Like we see something that needs to be fixed in our life and how can we fix it? So that's gonna be like where your fantasy ideas come from, right? So or even like your horror ideas or anything like that, but sometimes your ideas just come from what's going on around you. But that's really I just think everything stems from what you already have. All your ideas come from what's presented in front of you, and it's either like what are you using that what's in front of you, or what are you taking from what's in front of you and building upon? And that's, you're just creating from what you have. That's where ideas come from. In my opinion, I could be wrong. Maybe it's something better than that.
Okay. That'll do. What's the best way for people to find out about the Wolf Media Fest and follow what you're doing otherwise?
Yeah,
And
I
what's the
think
Squeaky Squad all about?
oh, Squeaky Squad. Yeah, my sweet little Squeaky Squad. Yeah, I have Squeaky Squad is my guinea pig sanctuary. I have a guinea pig sanctuary. It's just a nonprofit. I take in guinea pigs who are on the verge of death or being abused. Um, and that, yeah, that's basically it with them. I have a lot. We have 26 right now. We're sanctioned
Good
for
gracious.
40. Yeah, we're sanctioned for 40. Um, but we don't. We're trying to make sure that they have a good life. They come with us. They stay with us. We don't rehome them. We don't breed them. Um, they just stay with us till they pass. We try to give them a good life. We had one in a wheelchair. She died. She passed away in December, but we had her for a few years. And yeah, just giving them a good life. When I started the project, I'm a spoiled brat too. My husband spoils me. I used to not be spoiled, married my husband. Now I get everything I want and I love guinea pigs. So I am a spoiled brat and I wanted to have an animal rescue of some sort. Guinea pigs was something we could do. If I could have farm animals, I would, but we're not zoned for that. If I could do dogs, I would. Um, like, could you imagine? I just think when military vets have to like get stationed somewhere or they're deployed, if they could just temporarily leave their pets with me, bring me your dog, and then you come
Hmm.
home and I give you your doggy back. See, then I got your dog for a while. Now you get your dog back. Anyways, that's a future plan, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But
that sounds like a good idea. Yeah, if you can
yeah,
make that work.
it's something needs to that should be a thing. That should be a thing somewhere. I hope it is if it's not. But so we
Plus,
did
you
the
could do a lot of videos of soldiers coming home and meeting their pet for the first time after a
yeah,
long time.
I just
People
think your
love those
pet's like
videos. It's going to be
yeah,
great.
your pet is so loved the whole time and you can video chat with your pet and all sorts of fun things for them the whole time. But so with the pigs, we take them in, and I had this idea, and I was just thinking, like, my little girl fantasies of I get to lay in a group of guinea pigs and have all these cute little guinea pigs all over me. But realistically, it's just a lot of cleaning up poop all day.
A lot of cedar chips. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of chopping up vegetables and cleaning up poop, and, I love it. It does make me happy, but it is a lot of work. So there's that, and then as a therapist, everybody remind yourself that I am not your therapist, but I am a therapist. If you contact me, you can find me on, Wolfheart Family Services. I can guide you in directions to finding help. I can't give you help specifically, but I am more than happy to help people. And there is a lot of stigma around getting help. And so I do my best to make sure that you're not going to get in trouble for trying to get help. You can get in trouble for trying to get help. And I do not want that to happen. It's one of the most frustrating things to me that if you try to get help that you can be punished for it, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm gonna do my best to make sure that doesn't happen. Um, Make sure you're not gonna lose your job because you thought about harming yourself. Like, that shouldn't happen. We should just get you help, and you should feel better, and you should be able to live your life normally. Um, things along those lines. That's my job. That's what I'm here for. Contact me. I will help you find help. Again, I'm not your therapist, though. I'm just here to help. The festival, though, you can reach us at wolfmediafest.com. Go to the website, check it out. We do try to post films if they're available for people to watch already. Like a lot of them get put on YouTube, or sometimes they're like on Tubi. Um, they might be on Amazon sometimes. We do try to post them so people can watch them if they're available, but a lot of times they're not available, but we screen them at our in-person events. So we will be doing screenings. You can email us at admin@wolfmediafest.com if you wanna do a submission. We do free submissions all the time. There are some categories where it costs. They are low fees, but those are the film ones, but, like, podcasting's free, photography's free, games are free, most categories are free, even some film categories are free. In fact, I'd say more than half the categories of film are free categories, but we pay the judges, so we have to have something to pay the judges, but so the more major ones, do cost money, or the more popular ones do cost, I think it's like $10, 5 or $10 to submit. We're also on Film Freeway. It's just filmfreeway.com/wolfmediafestival. If you have a film, you probably already know that website, so just go to /wolfmediafestival and you'll find us. And I think it's on there. It's the same, like 5 or $10 to submit your film, or free, depending on what category you're submitting in. Um, and all the social medias, we're just at Wolf Media Fest. I've been deleting some of them. I think we're just trying to stick to like Instagram, probably because it's too hard to keep up with everybody messaging on so many different platforms, that when we're switching who's taking over, and there's some people messaging to the UK, some people messaging to France, some people messaging to the United States, and so we're kind of deleting some places. So I would say probably just go to Instagram or Facebook. You might get somebody in the UK, you might get me, but we're kind of deleting things. But if not, just Wolf Media Fest is on most platforms, so that's where to
Okay.
find.
In the show notes, I have the Wolf Media one, the Film Freeway, Instagram, Squeaky Squad, of course, and your IMDb. So if people want to look at those things, they're there in the show notes.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for your time. Any thoughts in closing, or things you wanted to talk about that we didn't?
No, I think we talked about a lot. I think I just want everybody to have a good day, be safe, take care of each other, do your best to help others do their best.
Nice. General well wishes. Very well. I will talk to you on the other side of this musical exit.